You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now. 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Sometimes riders feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
American way, and we built this country called the USA, and we fly our flag cause we're proud and free, we're Americans. Red, white, and blue is our way of life. We never back down from a challenge or a fight. Nature provides, God gives the rights, we're Americans. We fish the waters and we hunt the lands. We forge the steel with our own two hands. With what we've got, we do the best we can. We're Americans.
This is Rio of Madison Rising, and you're listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
It's time now for the Conservative Curmudgeon Radio Show. Now, here's Grouchy.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back. It's summertime. Yeah, maybe not quite officially, but trust me, where I'm at, it's 95 degrees today. It's summertime. We got some things to talk about. It wasn't the most exciting news cycle in the world, but we've got some ideas and topics here we're gonna be kicking out tonight, and we're going to let's see. We're going to start off with probably what was the biggest nothing burger story that got blown into a something burger that's really still a nothing burger, and that is the Philadelphia Eagles going or not going to the White House to see the president, you know, as like the tradition in the past. The Super Bowl champion teams, the National College champions, they go, and they did go. But the Eagles decided that they were not going to go. And then President Trump disinvited them after they said they weren't going. And then that got turned into a petty squabble. Now, here's what I'm going to say about this, okay? The Eagles are well within their rights to decline to go. No one should be able to force you to go visit the White House. But considering what the visit is for, if I were a player, I would insist on going. I don't care who the president was. The president is bigger than the person sitting in the presidency is bigger than the person sitting in the chair. And that's the way I feel about that. But we're going to talk about it some more. That's just my personal opinion. We had the mayor of Philadelphia, Jim Kenney, insisting that President Trump knows nothing about the Philadelphia Eagles or their fan base in the wake of Trump's decision to cancel the White House visit after they declined to come. So, yeah, this was kind of funny. They decide not to go, and then Trump cancels the visit, and then they get snippy about it. You know, make up your mind. You can't be a whiny-ass victim if you're going to cancel first. So anyway, Jim Kenney appeared on MSNBC's Andrea Mitchell Reports, which is a paradox in its own name. It should be Andrea Mitchell opines, maybe, or obfuscates, or something along those lines. But anyway, he said that Trump and the White House were out of touch when it comes to the Eagles. Now, the Eagles won the Super Bowl and were scheduled to be honored at the White House. But all but about 4 or 5 players, there's not a definite number that's been circulated yet, decided they weren't going to go. And then Trump canceled the ceremony. So Kinney said that was the president's decision. Only the crowd size was a concern for him, Kinney said. There wasn't going to be enough people there to stroke his ego, but he decided to cancel it. His assertion that the Eagles have abandoned their fans, he doesn't really have a clue about the Eagles fan base. This is all Kinney's quotes, Jim Kinney. Now, the White House released a statement midday Tuesday that sought to clarify what took place behind the scenes regarding the event that was replaced with a patriotic celebration at 3 p.m. on the White House lawn for the 1,000 Eagles fans that expected to see their team honored for winning the Super Bowl. Now, Press Secretary Sarah Sanders said the Eagles tried to reschedule the event, but Trump will be out of town on the dates they proposed. After a few days of discussion, Sanders said it was clear that the Eagles were planning to just send a handful of players and staff to the ceremony. Unfortunately, the Eagles offered to send only a tiny handful of representatives, while making clear that the great majority of players would not attend the event, despite planning to be in D.C. today anyway, according to Sanders. And we're going to find out a little later that that's actually true. They had planned to be in Washington, D.C. that day anyway. But he said that the White House doesn't fully understand the situation. Back to Kinney here on Andrea Mitchell's, we'll call it news-like program. Trump has clashed with the NFL and its players over several players taking a knee during the national anthem to protest perceived injustices of minorities. Even when we were terrible, winning 1 or 2 games a year, the fan base was still there, Kinney said. I think it's clear that this White House is out of touch with the Eagles organization and the Eagles fan base. The mayor added that the national anthem controversy could have fizzled out, but Trump interjecting his opinion on the matter gave it new life. Well, there might be some truth to that, but that doesn't mean that Trump's opinion on it is wrong. See, now what Jim Kinney didn't tell you is that they were only going to send a small delegation. But, and again, here's my opinion, Trump handled this wrong. Okay? And you've heard me say this before on the show. I'm going to say when he does something right. I'm going to say when he does something wrong. That's just how it is. That doesn't mean that I don't support him. It doesn't mean that I hate him. He's my president. He's our president. And I want him to do good. I wanted Obama to do good. A lot of good did not happen in Obama's administration like it could have. He squandered a lot of opportunities to do good. Trump also squanders opportunities to do good. What I would have done in this situation is I would have had the ceremony as planned, and I would have carried it out like the Eagles were there. And I would have taken, cute little barbs and lighthearted jabs at the fact that there was no one there. Not to poke the bear, but, let them know what they're missing out. And instead of maybe honoring no players since they weren't going to show up, let's get some of the fans that are going to be there. Let's get them screened and bring them up and celebrate them instead. I just think that the White House could have handled this a lot better and turned it into a positive instead of grown men having a pissing match, which is what it really turned into. Now, what we got into a little bit of earlier where they talked about how the Eagles were supposed to be in town anyway. Yes, they were supposed to be in town, and that is according to a statement issued by the NFL Players Association expressing their disappointment in the cancellation of the ceremony, saying that it will deprive the youth of the nation's capital the appearance of players at community service events they would have attended if they were in town. Well, if they weren't coming to the White House, why couldn't they just come to town anyway? See, it seems like the Eagles are trying to, spread a little sunshine where there's too many clouds. So basically they said DC's youth will be deprived of community service events because of the White House canceling Tuesday's reception for the Eagles. However, the White House didn't cancel until after the Eagles said they weren't coming. See how this works? So it just... The NFL Players Association says our union is disappointed in the decision by the White House to disinvite players from the Eagles from being recognized and celebrated by all Americans for their accomplishment. This decision by the White House has led to the cancellation of several player-led community service events for young people in the Washington, D.C. area. The statement closed by claiming that despite the disrespect some players have exhibited towards the national anthem and the President of the United States, they are still patriotic. NFL players love their country, support our troops, give back to their communities, and strive to make America a better place. So let's just stop here for a minute and let's look at how there are some players that really do an excellent job of that. Okay? Unfortunately, not all of them are Philadelphia Eagles. I am sure that the Eagles have their share of philanthropic and community-involved players that love giving back. Okay? You want to talk about an example of a player in the NFL that loves their community and gives back so much in time, in effort, and even money. Hello, J.J. Watt. Yeah, you remember J.J. He tried to raise $1 million after the hurricane hit down there in Houston, and ended up going like to $40 million. And you don't see that from a lot of guys in the NFL. This all stems from what Kaepernick started with taking the knee. Okay, Kaepernick was on a $114 million contract complaining about being oppressed. But instead of actually putting his money to work to fight the problem on the front side of it, he had to make a jackass of himself and lose his job over it, and subsequently his money over it, just so he could be a spectacle. Now we have players in the NFL who are talking about sitting out next season unless Kaepernick is signed to a contract by a team. To those players that wish to sit out to try to force a team to sign Colin Kaepernick, or any other player for that matter. I don't care if it's Kaepernick. I don't care if it's Ryan Leaf. I don't care who it is. You're trying to hold the NFL owners hostage this way. And if I were an NFL owner, I would give you nothing. You wouldn't get paid because you're sitting out, and I'd sign somebody to take your position, and I would eat the luxury tax against the salary cap just to do it, just to spite your dumb ass. Now, you can't imagine what it's like to read a statement that says our team was supposed to be in D.C. that day, but because we canceled first and then you disinvited us, we can't be there to show our support for these community programs that we were going to show our support for. Well, if you canceled to start with, how could you be there anyway? And if you're going to be there anyway, why not come to the White House? Bring the kids with you. What an experience. And again, don't get me wrong, Trump didn't handle this right either. I think this is a black eye for both. I really do. I think Trump could have really been the bigger person here and done something special. And they just, I don't know if it was the ego that got the best of them, or if it was just easier to cancel it and walk away. I don't know. The Eagles, shame on you. Shame on you. This is the off season. There's nothing going on. There's no reason the players couldn't make it. You can't have your cake and eat it too in this argument of, well, he disinvited us after we canceled. But now because he's disinvited us, we can't come and do these community service things. No, that's not how it works. Not how it works at all. So there is all that going on. And, that's about the size of it with Trump and the Eagles as far as that goes. So what else is going on? Yeah, what else? Well, Israel's Shin Bet security agency, and I guess this is like their secret service, announced Tuesday that it busted a Syrian-directed terror cell in East Jerusalem that had been plotting attacks against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and other senior officials. Mohammed Jamal Rashda, from the Shufat refugee camp in East Jerusalem, was arrested April 24th. He had previously been imprisoned for terrorist activities, and 2 others were later arrested. Now, the suspect, who holds an Israeli ID card, also intended to carry out attacks against a delegation of Canadian security representatives living in Jerusalem to train the Palestinian Authority security forces in the West Bank, as well as against buildings belonging to the American consulate. So according to the Shin Bet, Rashda had begun gathering intelligence about his targets and had already taken a number of preliminary steps to advance his efforts. Rashda and his accomplices had intended to bring in additional terrorist operatives from Jordan. And according to the Israeli news outlets, Rashda was operating on orders from a Syrian terrorist operative based in Damascus, affiliated with the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine General Command, a Syria-based terrorist group allied with the regime forces of President Bashar al-Assad. In the 1980s, the organization began secretly working with Hezbollah, the Iranian-backed group in Lebanon, but reemerged during the onset of the Syrian civil war, which began in 2011. And, that's what's going on in Israel right now. So I just, you just don't hear a lot about planned terror attacks anymore like this. This is like a true terror cell. And I would just think that, I don't know, for however many of these get busted, how many of them actually carry a plan out? I just don't know. And, whatever. Okay. So, moving on back home. Now here's a good one. Okay. This is a good one. It'll probably run us a little past the break. So just bear with me. We'll have to split this story in half or whatever, but Congressman Keith Ellison, Democrat of Minnesota, has launched his campaign to become Minnesota's Attorney General, which could make him the first Muslim to be elected to statewide office in U.S. history. This is according to newspaper sources. He would be the first. Now, I don't know of anybody else out there in a statewide office that would be a Muslim, so there's probably truth to this. And Ellison has served 6 terms in Congress and is currently the deputy chair of the Democratic National Committee. He filed his paperwork last week, and the congressman said in his statement announcing his campaign that no one, not even a president, is above the law. Well, duh, no kidding. From immigration reform to protecting our air and water, it has never been more important to have a leader as Attorney General who can stand up against threats to our neighbors' health and freedoms. Now, of course, he offers no concrete proof as to what he's talking about or referencing here, but he's got to say the right things to inspire the base to get behind him. Now, this Congressman Keith Ellison, he needs to get on the ball in light of the recent court decision that Trump's not allowed to block anybody. They said no public official like that is allowed to block anybody, and Keith Ellison still has me blocked on Twitter, and I want that remedied, Congressman. You're going to hear me just like Trump has to hear everybody else. I'm going to start pounding you on Twitter. So anyway, Keith Ellison says that he continues to create watershed moments for the American Muslim community with his ascension in American politics. And that's also echoed by Robert McCaw with CARE, that's the Council on American Islamic Relations, a quasi-terrorist organization living and breathing and operating right here in the United States. He says, okay, this is not him. This is DNC Chairman Tom Perez says, I have come to know Keith as someone who is passionate about finding every possible way to help the greatest number of Americans achieve a better quality of life. And I have witnessed that passion in every single decision he has made, including whether to continue the fight in Congress or run and serve as Minnesota's chief law enforcement official. Folks, I got news for you. If he becomes the Attorney General of Minnesota, which he likely will, Minnesota is screwed. You talk about frivolous lawsuits against the federal government until he just gets his way. That's how it's going to be. Ellison doesn't care anything about the law. Ellison only cares about obstructing an agenda that doesn't line up with his. That is the long and short of it. And, he can say what he wants to. He can color it any way he wants. That's how it's going to be. And you can mark my words on that. So now we're at the bottom of the hour. We made it through the Ellison story. We're going to take a little commercial break. Probably like 3 or 4 minutes. And then when we come back, we're going to press on, and hopefully we won't get through all the material before we run out of time because we're moving pretty quick tonight. But anyway, stay right here. We'll be back in just a few.
Ain't that America? You and me. Ain't that America? Something to see, baby. Ain't that America?
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq, Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is, if getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now, 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
Ain't that America? Something to see, baby. Ain't that America? Home of the free, yeah.
All right, welcome back. And we've been playing during the commercial, and I'm having some difficulty getting into the chat room. So if you are in the chat room, I'm so sorry I can't be there with you. It is not allowing me to log in. And I absolutely do not know why, and I wish I could be there with you, but like I said, I just don't know what it is. But we're gonna press on here, and I guess we'll talk about what Mike Pompeo is doing. The United States has set up a task force to oversee the response to mystery ailments among its diplomats in Cuba and China, according to Secretary of State Pompeo. Now, you remember we covered this story sometime back when we sent, I think it was like 24 U.S. officials back home from Havana with what they're calling brain injuries. They thought it was a sonic attack of some kind, but no one's ever been able to really figure out exactly what was going on. So now we're going to launch a task force to oversee the response. I don't know what the hell that's supposed to mean. How about let's investigate what happened and catch the sorry SOB and prosecute, or have their government prosecute, or whatever we have to do. So anyway, Washington has said that in the past, Cuban authorities must take responsibility for the safety of U.S. diplomats on their soil, but the Havana government denies any knowledge of an attack. Well, of course they do. So last month, another American employee fell ill with similar symptoms in China. reviving fears that a U.S. rival has developed some kind of acoustic or microwave device that is affecting people. Announcing the task force, however, Pompeo said the precise nature of the injuries suffered by the affected personnel and whether a common cause exists for all cases has not yet been established. And according to the State Department, the Health Incidents Response Task Force, that's there's no acronym there, will coordinate both the investigation and the treatment of the victims and work with several government and military agencies. The statement makes no reference to the possibility of a deliberate attack. Well, no, it's not going to come out and do that, although we know that this is a deliberate attack. It does warn that U.S. diplomats should alert their mission's medical staff if they note new onset of symptoms that may have begun in association with experiencing unidentified auditory sensations. Reported symptoms have included dizziness, headaches, tinnitus, fatigue, cognitive issues, visual problems, ear complaints, hearing loss, and difficulty sleeping. Hey, you talk about some messed up symptoms. And what the hell do you have to do? I would think right now that they'd be thinking about issuing some kind of noise canceling or, headphones or possibly ear plugs where applicable. I know it's uncomfortable, but you just never know. If you start experiencing the symptoms, do something to shut your ears down so that these waves or sound waves or microwaves or whatever they are can't get in. So anyway, that'll be fun. We'll get to see where that goes. This was one of my favorite stories of the week. And you got to understand, when I say of the week, we're talking about since last week's show. I work in a 7-day cycle from Wednesday to Wednesday. So within the last week, a week of last week's show. So here we go. You probably heard this story, but we're going to talk about it anyway. Former President Bill Clinton and author James Patterson are out with a new novel. It's titled The President is Missing. Now, the two men discussed the book in a Sunday interview with NBC's Craig Melvin. But in the second half of the interview, Melvin raised the Me Too movement and the Monica Lewinsky scandal, putting Clinton on the defensive in a way that few reporters have really ever done before. So Clinton got defiant and defended his decision to fight impeachment, saying he did the right thing and defended the Constitution. He said that he likes the Me Too movement, calling it way overdue. He pointed to all the women that he's appointed since he served as Arkansas governor. He also complained that he paid a price for his affair with Lewinsky, leaving the White House $16 million in debt, although in the years since then has become a multimillionaire worth $240 million, which happened like overnight. He also says that 2/3 of the American people sided with me during and after his affair with a White House intern. And asked if he agrees with critics that he should have resigned in the wake of the scandal, Clinton said no. If the facts were the same today, I wouldn't, he said. So a lot of the facts have been conveniently omitted to make the story work. But I think partly because they're frustrated that they got all these serious allegations against the current occupant of the Oval Office, and his voters don't seem to care. And again, he repeated that he did the right thing and defended the Constitution. I didn't know there was a constitutional right to boink your intern in the hallway between the Oval Office and your secretary's office, I didn't realize that there was a constitutional amendment to be able to extinguish your cigar in places that a cigar should never be. I did not realize there was a constitutional amendment to stain a blue dress. But if that's what defending the Constitution is, then yes, he did that quite well. He was asked if President Trump has been given a pass regarding all the women who have come forward and accused him of misconduct. Clinton did say no, but it hasn't gotten anything like the coverage that you would expect. Really? Really? Because it seems like we haven't even been able to have an agenda come forward for all of the ancillary BS not associated with Trump governing. So he says that the Me Too movement is great. It's way overdue. He said, I don't agree with everything. I still have some questions about some of the decisions which have been made. Melvin pointed to a piece in Vanity Fair in which Monica Lewinsky said she was diagnosed with PTSD from all of the public scrutiny of her affair with the president. She noted that Clinton was her boss, much older, and with enough life experience to know better. Melvin asked Clinton if, looking back through the lens of the Me Too movement, he thinks differently or feels more responsibility. And Clinton answered, no. I felt terrible then. I came to grips with it. And Melvin asked if he ever apologized to her. He said yes, and nobody believes that I got out of that for free. He said, I left the White House $16 million in debt. He said, but you typically have ignored gaping facts in describing this, and I bet you don't even know them. So Bill Clinton now is claiming that he paid off Monica Lewinsky to the tune of roughly $16 million. He said this was litigated 20 years ago. 2/3 of the American people sided with me. They were not insensitive that I had a sexual harassment policy when I was governor in the 80s. I had 2 women chiefs of staff, he said. Women were overrepresented in the Attorney General's office in the 70s for their percentage in the bar. He said, I've had nothing but women leaders in my office since I left. You are giving one side and omitting facts. Now, Clinton never explained which facts were being omitted or are missing. And Melvin said that he was not trying to present a side. And, Clinton basically, Melvin pressed him again. I asked you if you ever apologized. You say you have. Melvin played a tape of Clinton's public apology to his family, Monica Lewinsky, and her family. But you didn't apologize to her, Melvin said. I have not talked to her, Clinton said. Do you feel like you owe her an apology, Melvin asked. No, I do not, Clinton said. I have never talked to her. But I did say publicly on more than one occasion that I was sorry. That's very different. The apology was public. And you don't think a private apology is owed, Melvin asked. Patterson chimed in. I think this thing is 20 years ago. Come on, let's talk about JFK or LBJ. Stop already. So James Patterson jumped in to save his buddy. Clinton responded, I don't think that President Kennedy should have resigned. Do you believe President Johnson should have resigned? Someone should ask you these questions because of the way you formulate the questions. I dealt with it 20 years ago. plus the American people stayed with me, which we really didn't. And if anybody was alive and old enough to remember how they phrased the survey questions about the Clinton scandal, he's referring to some very specifically worded questions where there was no wiggle room. It was either a yes or no answer. So they knew what they were doing. But Clinton also described himself as a victim in this situation. I'm guessing because of the money. I mean, I don't know. If there was a payout to Monica Lewinsky, I would love to see what that payout was. I can bet you it wasn't $15 or $16 million. I can bet you it wasn't. But anyway, that's the story that Clinton got hammered with and didn't know how to react. And you know, again, he's a victim, and America stood with him, and he's always had women leaders in his office. You know, that doesn't lend itself well to somebody that's been accused of sexual abuse by multiple women. To claim that you keep a lot of women around you, not necessarily the best move. You know, I'm just saying, that's my opinion, for what it's worth. All right. So, another big story from the week, the Supreme Court. But it wasn't as big of a story as it was made out to be. Okay. CNN said that the Supreme Court narrowly decided a victory for religious liberty, which CNN also refers to as a travesty of justice. So the 7-2 decision in the Masterpiece Cake Shop versus Colorado Civil Rights Commission is being hailed as a victory for religious liberty, but not a total spiking the football in the end zone, game over kind of play. Specifically, the court recognized at least some religious liberty for Christian businesses to decline to participate in same-sex weddings they object to on grounds of the 2,000-year-old Christian tradition, derived explicitly from Jesus' own words in the Gospels of Matthew and Mark that defines marriage as the union of one man and one woman. Now, let's correct CNN here, because 7-2 is not a narrow decision. It is a lopsided decision, okay? Only Justices Ginsburg and Sotomayor would recognize no religious liberty at all here. Should not obscure the narrowness of Justice Kennedy's opinion, which leaves many questions for another day. They're kicking the can down the road is what happened. Okay, we'll get into the specifics here, but just keep that in mind. So religious liberty places religious liberty on something less than the firmest of grounds and reveals much about the current drift of how our politics and law safeguard vital liberties that the Founding Fathers would have protected much more broadly. And it may be bad news for President Trump in the travel ban case. How that relates, we'll get to it. So the facts in the Masterpiece Cake Shop were highly unsympathetic to the Colorado Civil Rights Commission's pursuit of the Christian cake baker Jack Phillips. And from the start, that put defenders of the commission on the defensive and gave them an incentive to prefer a narrow defeat in this case to a broader ruling. The baker did not operate a large corporation, had been in business for 2 decades, testified convincingly to his sincere religious convictions, and made clear to the gay couple at the outset that he would gladly serve them, he just wouldn't do same-sex wedding cakes. To create a wedding cake for an event that celebrates something that directly goes against the teachings of the Bible would have been a personal endorsement and participation in the ceremony and relationship that they were entering into, Phillips said. Excuse me. On the other hand, the baker limited his own argument, conceding that the law would likely require him to provide non-wedding specific goods and services to same-sex weddings, so long as they did not involve making any sort of endorsement. Now, his argument was simply that wedding cake design is a form of expression that crosses the line from doing ordinary arm's-length commerce to placing his own personal touch on the wedding ceremony, which is, after all, part of what attracts many wedding service providers to that line of work. The court's starting point in recognizing that some space should be left for objections of conscience was the easy case. The rights of religious clergy, but even when asked to draw a line of protection around a modest sphere for religious conscience and free speech in only those activities that involve some personal endorsement, the court's majority was clearly concerned about the stigma effect of allowing a large number of service providers to opt out. Again, the million-dollar question is, why would you want to give your money to somebody who doesn't believe in what you're doing? Now, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, okay? I'm just saying, why would you as a patron want to go to a business that doesn't like your lifestyle? Why would you want to give them your money? And why would it upset you that they don't want to serve you based on your lifestyle? There are plenty of bakers out there that are more than happy to take your money and bake your cake and decorate it. I think that a lot of this is still just screaming for attention. So anyway, when it comes to weddings, it can be assumed that a member of the clergy who objects to gay marriage on moral and religious grounds could not be compelled to perform the ceremony without denial of his or her right to the free exercise of religion. So this refusal would be well understood in our constitutional order as it is, as an exercise of religion, an exercise that gay persons could recognize and accept without serious diminishment to their own dignity and worth. Yet if that exception were not confined, then a long list of persons who provide goods and services for marriages and weddings might refuse to do so for gay persons, and thus resulting in a community-wide stigma inconsistent with the history and dynamics of civil rights laws that ensure equal access to goods and services and public accommodations. Again, there's the key word, public accommodations. This is not a public business. This is a private business. You do not have to use them. There are other bakers. Any decision in favor of the baker would have to be sufficiently constrained lest all purveyors of goods and services who object to gay marriage for moral and religious reasons, in effect, be allowed to put up signs saying no goods or services will be sold if they are used for gay marriages. Where did I go? I lost my place. Instead of deciding where the line should be drawn, which is what they should have done, the court focused on the easy way out. They punished the obvious anti-Christian discriminatory motives of the Civil Rights Commission of Colorado, which at one point involved literally comparing the baker to Nazis. Commissioners endorsed the view that religious beliefs cannot legitimately be carried into the public sphere or commercial domain, implying that religious beliefs and persons are less than fully welcome in Colorado's business community. One commissioner suggested that Phillips can believe what he wants to believe, but cannot act on his religious beliefs if he decides to do business in the state. freedom of religion and religion as a whole has been used to justify all kinds of discrimination throughout history, whether it be slavery, which there is still a religion that advocates for slavery today, and that religion is allowed to ferment itself here in the United States, even though we don't permit the slavery side of it. But there is no denying that Muslims own slaves in different parts of the world, and that the religion of Islam promotes that. So freedom of religion has been used to justify all kinds of discrimination through history, they said, whether it be slavery, whether it be the Holocaust. We can list hundreds of situations, according to the commission, that have been used to justify discrimination. And the commission said that it is one of the most despicable pieces of rhetoric that people can use to use their religion to hurt others. So again, to describe a man's faith as one of the most despicable pieces of rhetoric that people can use is to disparage his religion in at least two distinct ways. First, by describing it as despicable, and also by characterizing it as merely rhetorical, something insubstantial or even insincere. The commission even went so far as to compare Philip's invocation of his sincerely held religious beliefs to defenses of slavery and the Holocaust. This sentiment is inappropriate for the commission charged with the solemn responsibility of fair and neutral enforcement of Colorado's anti-discrimination law, a law that protects discrimination on the basis of religion as well as sexual orientation, not to show favoritism for one over the other. Now, we know the court kicked it down the road. They basically found against the commission, which is a default ruling for the baker. And that's it, folks. I mean, we're back around to the top of the hour. I can't even wrap that story up because we're so tight on time. Look, it's been great being here with you. Next week, I am going to be out of town. So do yourself a favor and tune in for a great replay. I'll pick a special one out for you guys. We might do a little a summertime Christmas thing. We might bring back some of the Christmas shows. They were fun. But anyway, if you like the show, tell your friends. If your friends like the show, you need new ones. But they and you are welcome here every week with me on KLRN Radio for the Conservative Curmudgeon Radio Show. I am your host, The Grouch. Peace and God bless.
Oh, but ain't that America for you and me? Ain't that America? Something to see, baby. Ain't that America? No more free.
Medications don't work. I've been here for 7 years.
Giggity, 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 let's have sex.